Hi, Kathy. Was she not connected?
Pardon me?
Hi.
Sorry. I had to go get a pen. Oh, different Kathy.
Oh, so yeah, so Kathy O'Neill was coming in.
Gotcha.
There she is. She's connecting to the audio as we
It's
speak.
upside down. Happy anniversary, Ed.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, my wife says,
Oh, thank you.
All right. So I guess,
everybody just, well,
still no Gary, but
Gary and Jeanette.
Jeanette's here. She just
Oh,
got
is she?
here.
Okay, good. Well, we do have a quorum, so
all right. You are here. All right, so let's call the meeting to order. I believe it's, I don't know what it is, 6:32. 32. Thank
Yep.
you all for being here. And if you would do a roll call, Cindy,
okay. Ed, I know you're here.
I'm here.
Jeanette? Muted. She's here. Lynn? Here. Me, I'm here. Angela?
Here.
Kelsey?
Here.
Lori? Here. Kathy R.
Here.
Gary, did you show up yet?
Not yet.
Nothing. Jenna
I'm here.
and Kathy O.
I'm here.
You're here. Okay.
Thank you.
Lynn's here.
I want to apologize ahead of time for the garlic shrimp I had for dinner. So
Oh.
screen starts to cloud up. If you've ever,
I'm seeing cloud.
if you like garlic shrimp, I highly recommend the Frisco Bar over in Webster Groves. That's, we sat by the fireplace this afternoon and had our anniversary dinner. So
Oh,
we can go 2 or 3 hours then, you know, but we won't.
Okay.
Opening quote. I have a quote this time from a book I just finished called The Midnight Library. Maybe you've heard of it. It's on a lot of bestseller lists
Yeah.
and all that. And there are two things I thought were kind of fun from it. One is, quote, "It turned out to be near impossible to stand in a library and not want to pull things from the shelves." I think that's very true when we go into one. And then finally, this woman was being hushed in the library and she said, well, we're the only two people here. She said, that's not the point. It's still a library. If you're in a cathedral, you're quiet because you're in a cathedral, not because other people are there. It's the same with a library. Jenna, your domain is now somewhat religiously oriented, I guess. But, last month, I quoted from the obituary for Carolyn Beimdeck, and I know Don Beimdeck sent a note to Jenna, and I think she forwarded it to us that Missouri House resolution honoring Carolyn did mention her service on our library board. So
Yeah.
always good to get that kind of publicity. So thank you for.
When I got appointed, I filled in for her. She had left the library board, and so I got appointed in her spot. So I felt really honored.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, we're all happy about that because
Well, thank you, Ed.
otherwise nobody'd be here to take minutes, so we'd be in trouble. All right, let's go to the agenda, and before we accept it, I wanted to make one change, and that is to eliminate the entry under old business about the budget, and we've already got that down under the treasurer's report. So without any objection, we'll just move that down in the treasurer's report. Are there any other changes or additions to the agenda for tonight? If not, is there a motion to accept the agenda as revised?
Here comes Gary.
So moved.
I'll second.
Second. Okay, who seconded?
Lynn,
Jeanette and Lynn.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
bye.
Opposed, same sign. Very good. The minutes of the February 2nd meeting, you have received those. Are there any changes to the minutes? If not, is there a motion to accept the minutes as submitted?
So moved.
Okay. I'll second.
I've
Just
heard
do
it.
it to get it over with.
Yeah, right.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you. We are moving along.
Yep.
Public comment section, the meeting is being recorded and it's available online. Any public questions or comments are always welcome, may be directed to Jenna, our wonderful librarian, at the front desk or wherever you can find her in the parking lot. I will see the other members of the public, so we will move on to the aldermanic report. And Kathy, I am going to once again say thank you for being such an advocate on our behalf in our dealings with the city. And I know this time we appreciate you keeping us informed on little developments that happen in the city, which we will get into more, but we always appreciate that. So thank you again, Kathy. And what kind of report do you have for us?
Briefly, the only thing that affects the library may be a personnel change or two personnel changes. Karen Shaw is retiring. Jim Tanti has been taking her place. He is leaving and Gina Jarvis is going to come back on a part-time basis until someone be full-time. So it will be the Jenna and Gina show for a while.
How do you spell her name?
Like
Uh,
Jenna,
Really?
The
Oh,
last name is
Gina.
okay.
Jarvis. For the
Say
last
it
name.
again. Say again.
Jarvis.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Janet Jarvis. And Jenna Gibbons still spells it the same way.
Okay. Thanks.
We will fill you in a little later on why that was such an interesting development. But okay, anything else, Kathy? That's it.
No, except to invite you all to go down to the Brentwood bound area, south of Manchester. If you don't mind your car getting dirty, you can go in and drive and just look at everything that has been cleared. Without the buildings, you can see for a mile. It's absolutely amazing how large it is. And right now they are burying super huge pipes, but eventually they will realign the creek and make oxbows and put in a lake. It will be parkland, but it's, as Brentwood residents, you should just look and see what's happening. It's coming in on budget and we have extra money from grants that the parks people are getting. So
That's
Yeah.
all.
amazing that it's all coming together so well. So go look at it and enjoy and anticipate what may be coming.
Well,
How do we get there?
from
If
here?
you go down past Popeyes and the car wash and go in and then turn right, you can see, orange flags and taping and stuff there, and just, you can do that, or you can go in Mary, where the tunnel is going to be, and then drive in and it's pretty obvious what is going to be able to hold your car. They've got roads.
Okay.
Really,
Yeah.
pretty amazing. And being my anniversary, I'll tell you how romantic I am. I took my wife on a drive down by Norm Westfield and back in that area. And it's also interesting is to go on Marshall and turn into that
Mhm.
area and you kind of look over the whole area from up there. And it's incredible because you really see it happening because of the buildings on Manchester blocking the view. But when you go back there, you realize, wow, things are really going. So
Well,
Yeah.
the
Kathy
dump,
would love us to find a library location back there. I know that. So
I think it'd be ideal, but whatever.
that could be
dump
part of our-
trucks keep
part of our
going
future.
back and forth to up Brentwood. They'll just
The dump trucks are taking everything up to Hazelwood to that new sports complex
Oh,
where I think unfortunately they are filling in the floodplain. I don't know particulars and it'd probably just make me irate if I found out, but that's where all those trucks are going.
Oh,
Hmm.
Yeah, as a Cecilia resident, we've seen a lot of those trucks drive past on Manchester. We have to stop and watch them all go and see the dust. So
We saw
I
some
can tell.
stats. They said they fill one every 3 minutes. They have between 50 and 60 trucks and each one makes 5 to 6 trips a day.
oh
Wow.
my gosh.
Very good. Well, thank you for that. Let's move on to the library director's report. Kendall, what do you got for us?
Let's see. Did you all get my report
Mhm.
earlier? Have you had a chance to look at it?
We
Mhm.
did.
I would say the only thing that's really timely is that if you want to go to that link, it should be a link on that report to the ALA site for advocacy and build libraries.
Yeah.
There's information on contacting your representative, and I believe tomorrow, tonight might be actually like the kind of the ending of this to do it. If we want the House to introduce a bill to allow the grant funding to include money for renovating buildings, which it currently does not do. And if that's the case, that would be awesome. Maybe not necessarily for us, but maybe for us. But for a lot of libraries that need it,
It
being
never
able to
hurts-
have grant money to do that would be amazing.
It never hurts to apply. Jenna, the original mailing you sent me said that we were to contact senators rather than representatives.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah. Well, the thing that I just I copied it from our state librarian, Robin
Okay,
Westfall.
so they're now. senators.
Yeah, and it says the U.S. representative. So
Okay.
Yeah, and I just clicked on it to see, and it is sending it to your senators, not your representatives.
Senators.
maybe she just wrote it in wrong then. Okay.
Well, Josh Hawley has heard from me so often, I don't think he wants to hear from me this. But I think, um, but really, yeah, we just, if everyone will send, even if it's a form letter, and I think they have forms.
Have form letters, so you could just, yeah.
Yeah,
From
you
their
can just put your
website.
information and hit submit, and it does it all for you.
But we have to do it today.
I believe that so, because I think they were gonna, I think tomorrow is when
The vote.
the vote closes. Yeah, so.
Boy,
Well,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I just saw
Okay.
it yesterday, so. I should have sent it then, but
well, I would be glad to send it also on behalf of the Board of Trustees of the Brentwood Public Library. If someone will make a motion to authorize me to do that, I will do that tonight or tomorrow morning.
I make
I
the
make a mo-
motion.
I will second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded
Okay,
that I send a letter on behalf of the board. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Opposed? Okay, we will do that. But again, you can send as individuals
Aye.
too. They like to hear from organizations and
thank
individuals.
you.
thank you.
Yeah.
So, I guess my
Thanks,
other
Ed.
big thing would be, we hired Samantha Levison, so she's working part-time. So, I don't know if you talk to her or see her out in the lot, say hi. And does anybody have any questions about anything else on my report?
I know we're going to get to the reopening later under your committee report, but
Yeah, I didn't put that in here so much. Yeah, so,
yeah, we'll get to that. Under the
Okay.
committee.
I have a question.
Question?
Yes.
Go
I don't know
ahead.
how to raise my hand. Are the hotspots up and running, available for checkout?
yeah, I have one out and then the other ones are getting bagged tomorrow because I finally got some little bags to put them in.
Okay.
They came in boxes, so yeah.
Is
Okay.
Wanda still working, or when do you make the switch to Beanstalk?
Oh, Wandu is, well, we don't have anything up. Beanstalk isn't going to be ready until the the summer reading club. So, and we just finished the winter reading club with Wandu. So, so yeah, and we're not going to do anything in between. So,
Okay.
so it'll be May.
Okay. Hopefully by then we'll be a little bit more accessible to people. So that'll be great.
Yeah.
Do we have 5 fishing poles that can be borrowed?
Yeah, so they still need to be cataloged, but I have them, like, Ed got to see them. They were delivered last week. So yeah, if you wanna check out a fishing pole to take to Tilly's Park, you can fish there. There's other places you can fish, you know, you don't have to, that's not the only place, but it is close by. So
We're hoping that we're bound, we won't be fishing in Manchester anymore. So that'll be good.
yeah,
My grandsons will love that. They're fishing maniacs.
oh, do they have their own poles?
I think they have their own poles, but it would be fun to bring them to the library to check out fishing poles.
Yeah, or you check out a pole and they'll show you how to use it.
Oh, yeah, there you go. There you
Mhm.
go.
It might be nice to put some little blurb that says you have to have a fishing license or who has to have a fishing license. So nobody can say you didn't tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think we have a kiddie pool in the basement. I'm trying to like dig that out so we can make a cute little flyer. So we'll be doing that when it's being cataloged.
And what's really nice is that Jenna and her staff have volunteered to dig up worms every day to get them into the library. So
And tackle boxes.
And
That's right.
Jenna, I know you said the city kind of took over the bicycle repair thing. Is there any news on that?
You know, I
Coming in
haven't,
effect before spring cycling begins?
I have not heard anything, but I can ask. Are you on the sustainability panel, Kathy O'Neill?
I'm on the committee.
Have you guys talked about it?
We just had one meeting. We haven't really discussed anything.
Okay,
Uh-oh.
so that,
staying
yeah,
in conversation yet.
yeah. I can just mention, I can send an email to Brandon and just ask him if he has any, plans. Write it down.
He's technically not the chair. The chair is Andy
Oh.
Berger, but
Well, Kelsey.
basically, as Andy feels his way through this and we set it up, Brandon's the one who comes up with a lot of the ideas. So
Oh, gotcha. Okay, that's right. I'm sorry, I did see that. All
Okay,
right.
I think we're ready to move on to old business. The goals subcommittees reporting if appropriate. As far as the lease committee, we have not really met yet. I think we're trying to make sure everything is moving forward, especially after some of our conversation with the city. So hopefully Jenna and myself and Lori will be touching base within the next month or so on that. Accounting, here we go. Who wants to report on that? Lynn, why don't you talk about our meeting or
Sure.
and where we're at?
We met with Bola and Jim. And it was a fine meeting. I was not expecting answers because obviously Jim had only been here for 2 weeks and didn't really know the history at all. So I think it was more a surprise that the revenue, the normal monthly activities hadn't been done even as of the beginning of February. That should have been done in December. I think that was more of a surprise than anything. So Jim is going to be spending his time researching the accounts that we have that we don't really know what is in them. Let me go through the list again. We have a magic cash on hand account, accounts receivable other, prepaid expenses, a due from account, which is between us and the city, accounts payable trade, and salaries payable. Most of the, particularly for the prepaids and the payables, those were entries that were made at the end of December 2019, but then had never been adjusted throughout the year. So if it comes out that we have to just, we can't identify what this stuff is, and it should just be written off, it comes to a total of $11,157.60, which in the grand scheme of things really isn't much. It's frustrating, certainly, that we didn't have the information to move on these things before and either write them off earlier or have a better chance to collect. But at least it's not anything that's going to be impactful to our ability to survive.
I feel like we took maybe 2 steps forward in the meeting, and then the next day we took a step back when we found out that Jim was going to be leaving, and he was the contact person that we were told. And I also feel, not talking out of school, but I feel that the city was not aware of some of the dollar
Right.
figures, some of the line items, and I was kind of surprised at that. And I'm hoping that we all kind of came out with a positive attitude that, all right, we know who's going to work on it and get it done. And I know that you and Jenna and Jeanette will get with Jim and Gina, I guess, as it goes along, and get these things resolved. But I hope, and Kathy O'Neill, you're hearing me too. I hope that we don't have to go any farther with some of these items, but it was just disappointing. I guess the lack of knowledge about some of the things in the reports.
Well, as Jim mentioned, the library's portion of the city's budget is relatively small. So in the grand scheme of accounting for the city of Brentwood, we're just a drop in the bucket. So having a $7,000 accounts receivable that we don't know what we're collecting for, that's practically immaterial. Actually, it is immaterial in a $16 million budget. So it may be significant to us. It's really not, if you think about the fact that we have a $900,000 revenue source right now. It's still fairly minimal. So as I said, as frustrating as it is that there isn't the information available, it's small enough numbers that it's not really going to make much of a difference.
Well, it's not only the dollar amount, though. It would bother me if a mistake was perpetuated over and over and over again, or some kind of erroneous entry or non-entry. So that's where I'm hoping we can settle and get going with a fresh start. And I think that's one benefit of our steps with the lease and a new accounting is that we're going to clear up some things from the past. So.
Absolutely.
Okay, Jeanette, and Jenna, did you want to share anything else from the meeting?
No, except Lynn, do you need me to look for those really old treasurer reports for when I was treasurer? I don't know if I still have them.
I don't think so.
Okay, all right.
I think the main thing is really just having somebody have the opportunity to take the time and go look at those accounts and what transactions have occurred, if any, in the last 5 years. And then they'll know what it comes from. If it's longer than that, then we've got Gina, who was there, who may be able to help on that as well. So, yeah, I think the side that was a little bit more astonishing maybe is how many things within the lease were our responsibility that they were going to bill us for, and they really didn't. It didn't seem like they had a concept of the fact that they had to actually give us a bill.
Yeah.
So I think them thinking about all of the different pieces that they have to bill us for was a little bit more than they bargained for. Certainly they're aware because they've agreed to it all, but the volume in just that brief conversation, I think, was a little bit eye-opening.
Okay, well, we appreciate what the committee is doing and we'll continue to work. I'm sure you'll have some more progress reports for us before you sail off to the South Pacific, right, Lynn?
Yes,
Specific.
that island down in South County.
There we go. All right, let's move on to the, before we leave the accounting, how are we with our accounts at CIBC and credit cards and all that kind of stuff?
We just got our credit card. I think I had it activated last week. So the only disappointment there was they gave us a $500 credit limit. I'm like, okay. Like, so I need to ask them if they can raise that. I don't know.
Like you're 12 years old. That's funny.
Yeah.
I was like,
More
oh my
general.
gosh. I'm like, I don't think we can pay our Euclid bill with like, and do anything else. So, okay. So yeah, we'll have to work on that.
Right.
Have to go to Dollar General.
Yeah. But I don't know if there's any other news.
Did we,
report.
did we sign the agreement from whatever that huge 12-page thing was?
Yeah, oh my God, what was that? That was even, I think that was just even part of almost like our opening papers, wasn't it?
I
Yeah.
couldn't understand it.
I came by, I signed something. I know I came by the library. That was
No,
ago.
if you had asked me about it like the day after we did that, I would have been able to tell you. Like,
Well, somewhere you wrote and said it was that for public accounts
mhm.
that they basically, I interpreted that they won't lose our money.
Oh, right. Yeah. So it was the, instead of, they have our account secured through, is it First National Bank or US Bank? I'd have to look at the paperwork. So in case something happens and our money, something happens with the bank, our money is insured, all of it.
All right, that's important.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
and they go in and they look at it. The woman said they look at it like every month just to make sure that they have enough. They have enough insurance on it. So,
Okay.
yeah. Thanks. I needed a big jog to the memory for that one.
And do they charge us for that insurance, or is that something they take care of?
You know what? I didn't ask. I assume they took care of it since it was, they said it was required on the public funds accounts. So,
Okay.
but I can ask.
I'll take a look at that. If you need to have Perk look at that. Okay, let's move on to the safety plan. Is there any report from that committee, Jenna and Cindy and Angela? Anything more?
I asked them to defer maybe till April to start looking at that.
Okay.
So not tonight.
Well, then let's talk about reopening. Jenna and Kelsey and Kathy have been meeting and going to meetings and making recommendations, and I think they sent that to all of us.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've been pretty much the one going to the meetings.
So you
Let
want
me
to tell us what your thoughts are and what your committee is recommending?
So St. Louis Public is opening actually this week. They're gonna do like the same, like 30, I think there's 30-minute visits. They're not gonna be limiting, but they have not done that in the past. So St. Louis County is going to reopen slowly on the 23rd, I believe, of March. And what that's going to look like is appointments to browse. limited capacity, limited time period in the building, and appointments, and then they're going to still keep doing the curbside. So, so the MLC people are talking, and Webster wants to open sooner. So they're probably going to be opening in like a week or two. I feel like we could open up kind of along the lines of that the county was talking about, doing appointments so that we can control like how many people are coming in. Because I'm still hoping to do a lot of curbside business. So I'm thinking like 10 people in the building, 30-minute time limits, 2 public computers, and we've got the 2 self-checks. So that should help us with people checking out their own stuff. We'll have everything open to browse. So people will be able to go into the kids' room. People will be able to use the stacks this time. Yeah, it's just going to take us some time to actually, I think, we don't want people sitting. So we're going to have to, we don't have room to put all of our chairs in storage. So we'll come up with something. We're like, well, we'll just put all of our stuff on the chairs. So I don't know. Because right now it just seems like, you know, while we've been closed, we've just had everything next to us. So it feels like there's piles everywhere.
Well, one welcome thumbtack would keep people off chairs.
Yeah, there you go. Thumbtacks. Yeah. Yeah. So
So
yeah, Jeanette.
what do you, okay, 2 things, and I've already forgotten one, which is really scary. To sign up, oh, I know what it was. Maybe if we could open during spring break, that might give people, I mean, I don't know when spring break is for Brentwood.
22nd.
22nd, but that's a little soon. Okay, never mind.
Hoping not. I know.
Never mind. Never mind. I didn't suggest that. But if we're making appointments, if somebody's bringing their kids, somehow it has to be arranged so that, you know, if a mother and 2 kids comes in, or a father and 2 kids comes in, it takes up 3 of those slots somehow.
Yeah.
Whoever makes that Google page has to do that. Okay.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, each person will count. So.
Okay.
And I know like some stores say only 1 person per household, you know, because they don't want people to be but do you think that would not, because you're right, like my youngest would love to go in and just pick out 8,000 books. But at the same time, I could also just go in. So I didn't know if it got to the point where people were bringing too many people, if you wanted to restrict it to 1 per household would come, if that seems necessary. I don't know. It's just a thought.
Yeah, I threw it out there, but I feel like we decided that no, you know, we don't want to discourage families from coming in, but we also don't want to encourage like, you know, like, because it is definitely a family hangout place.
Right.
You know, so we don't want that, but I feel like maybe even just because all of our quarantine stuff is in the kids' room and I don't have another place to put it, it's going to be less like inviting almost, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I
really
imagine stuff is put away. It's not,
yeah.
It might just need to be clear on that part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and also the 30-minute limits and, you know, and the 10 people at a time, I feel like it'll work itself out. So we won't have to do that. But I guess we could always revisit it if it becomes a problem, you know.
I know that you and your committee and have talked about this, and I think I told you, I believe a couple weeks ago that we're basically looking to you and your professional staff, I think, to make the best decisions after you've studied things and come up with some ideas. And you know, if there are no real objections or anything, I think we kind of leave it to your judgment. I think we'll support you. Does anybody have any strong points they want to make about how we open and everything? I think you're going to have to be in touch with other libraries too and see, well, how is this working for you, or what are you doing with this? But
yeah, it does depend on the library too. It's very, you know, because everybody's space is different. It really, and you know, and different communities have different needs, and just, you know, things that will fly there and won't. So I think that, you know, because we have had a little bit of experience from last summer, we can kind of I think we've learned from that, and also, you know, that we could probably open up more, but maybe not have as many computers, because the computers really is where you end up, I don't know, people just can't keep that mask on. It's just, so that will be, you know, that will be a thing. It'll be policing, you know, so.
Yeah, and we do not want you or your staff to ever feel like they're in a dangerous situation.
Right.
Yeah,
Don't hesitate to contact the police to help enforce things like that. And I know you don't want to.
yeah, I mean, most people, I mean, you tell them enough times, then they'll do it, you know. It's just, I guess it's a fun thing, you know. I'm just complaining.
One
I'm
thing
just-
I would encourage you is, I'm sure that you or other staff members have the artistic abilities and to come up with a flyer, a poster
Oh, yeah.
that will have the reopening and also have the general guidelines. And, you know, we need that in City Hall and the rec center and Carl's or wherever else scholars gather. And I would also be sure and get it to the Pulse.
Mm,
Their deadline was yesterday for
I
this.
know, yeah, next month, I guess, you know, which is fine, because I'm not, you know, wanting people to just like come
And of course, our
rushing
website,
in.
the city's website, the city's newsletter. But the more we can publicize that you're open for certain duty or services, I think it would be good. So. Any other questions or thoughts?
And
Go ahead, Kathy.
And why don't you talk to Janet at City Hall? Ask her to add it to the city calendar once you have a specific date. And you could even say library will reopen for 10 at a time or something, but another way
Yeah.
to, that it would be online that way too.
Well, honestly, I don't know that we want to, I think the tack that most libraries are taking is more of a soft, you know what I mean? Because we don't want to be overwhelmed, because people do miss us. I mean,
Yeah.
and I remember, like, you know, just like when we were closed because of, what was it? Because of a flood, you know, or something. I don't, that when we were closed and reopened and it was just insane. I just really don't want that. You know, I think it'd be better to do, I mean, I want to advertise it, but I don't want to go whole out.
Not like a grand reopening.
No.
I think we're going to have a grand reopening at another time.
Yeah, when everybody's vaccinated.
And
I think you just need to make it clear that it's 10 people and you have to pre-register.
Sure. Yeah, and
So-
we can do that. I mean, that's, you know, yeah.
well, very good. Unless there are any objections, I'd say, you know, you and your staff move ahead with your plans. Just kind of keep us in the know. So if our neighbor asks us when's the library reopening, we can tell them.
Yeah.
Any other questions about that? Okay, the next committee is the facilities subcommittee. We did not meet in February. We are scheduled to meet on March 22nd. That's the fourth Monday at 6:30 on Zoom, and I'll get with Jen and we'll set up a Zoom. But one thing I would encourage if you're on that subcommittee is to look on the Google Docs that Jenna and others have put on the information, so we kind of have a little bit more of a information base to go from. I don't think we're going to be able to do a whole lot until we really can get out and start visiting places and that. So what we're doing now is establishing our knowledge base. So we will meet probably not too long, but on March 22nd.
We have a survey for the staff has been prepared.
Say that again.
A survey
Oh, you do have one.
Oh,
Great,
wow.
for the staff has been prepared
great.
and
We'll
is
take a look at that then and see
is
if we can
ready.
figure it
It's
out.
ready. I think it's ready to go.
That'll be
Yeah.
good. All right. All right, let's move on to the employee handbook. Jenna and Laura
All
have
right.
working like crazy on this. So
Oh, boy.
Did everybody get a chance to look at the
Oh,
documents?
And just so you know, Jen, we talked about kind of our tactic because the handbook is lengthy and we did an overview of the whole thing and things we want to add to it. but we're not going to bring it all to the same meeting.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of tackle it in hunks because it could take a whole night to do the whole thing. So
my-
we're just, our goal is to bring something every month to be reviewed and approved. So
my-
just so you
my
know what we're
question,
thinking.
Funeral leave policy, you'll address another time.
That's in a
It's-
separate
it is
section.
in there. Yeah, it's in another
Yeah.
section.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, go ahead, however you want to present it.
Well, Lori, do you mind? I mean, I
Yeah.
guess, yeah.
No,
if
I
you
can
mind
talk
just-
about it.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate it.
So you'll see we did 2 different options. So the more we talked, the more we thought about this idea of exempt versus non-exempt, and that your exempt employees are usually walking in with, a professional designation, more experience, we thought there should be more of a benefit in not having to wait 5 years to get more vacation, or 4 years. So we went ahead and added that. You'll notice that's really the main difference between options A and B, is that we added that. We also clarified that a new employee waits 6 months before taking vacation time, and that it would start over on the calendar year, allowing employees to carry over half of what they've earned for that year into the next year. So that eliminates the problem of somebody starts September and has to wait till 6 months to get their vacation time. Then they lose it because it starts over. So we're trying to eliminate some of that issue with that option. And we also looked at sick leave, mainly because the language in sick leave was harsh. And we felt like it was really trying to get people not to take it. And because we serve the public, and because we're going through, health pandemics, that probably will be around for a while, or people will still be nervous about someone coughing while they're helping them in a public place. We don't want to discourage people from using sick leave when they are sick. So
Especially now.
that's kind of why we changed that. So
Good.
does anybody have any general thoughts before we kind of look at the options? No.
So, okay, well, I'll ask, because I'm glad I started on this earlier this afternoon, because otherwise I would have been in big doo-doo. Okay, so the exempt, I forgot what that meant, so that helps me with that. So I'm the detail person. So vacation pay, I'm on vacation 6.2 option A. I don't even know. This probably has to do with option whatever B or something. If someone starts in and at 6 months, they're qualified to have 10 days. But what happens if they work 6 months, take 10 days off, and then quit?
We get screwed.
I know. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
bringing it up. I'm just not saying one way or the other, but I'm saying,
But that happens in any job though, doesn't it?
okay.
Yeah,
no.
because it's not an accrual by month. It's like an allotment. So
But you don't get any vacation until you've worked a year.
No,
6 months.
we changed it to 6 months.
Yeah,
We changed it to
because it's kind of ridiculous to ask somebody to wait a year to take some time off.
Actually, that's pretty standard.
yeah.
I'm not in the library world because I'm gonna say, I mean,
I have a problem with someone working 6 months and getting 10 days off. I'm just going to say that, but that's
You would rather have it be a year?
a year or monthly accruement, I remember when I was first working with Social Security, every paycheck you got half a day off or whatever. I don't know if that's doable. It's, I guess
if you do that for one category, do you have to do that for everybody then? I mean, is that or is that something we could just work into that first year?
I don't know. Yeah.
Pretty much in our payroll system, it's either or. So I'm trying to think like,
So that would mean anybody would, would have to accrue their days. So,
yeah,
if it starts over January 1, you can carry over half your vacation, but if you don't, you have no vacation January 1.
Okay, all right.
So we'd have to change. I mean, it could work because we could change the whole system to be that you accrue it, because that's the way mine is. I accrue it, so I get, so much time, but then it never starts over. It's just continual accrual. Does that make sense? So it's like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
so it would be pretty much changing the system so that you don't start with your time, you earn your time, but then we might have to be a little more generous when it comes to banking your time, because if I can't take time with me, I've now accrued all this time and now I've lost half of it, but I worked all that time to get it. Does that make sense?
Right. I think it makes sense.
I'm just looking at the comparisons that you gave us this afternoon. It looks like Kirkwood, you can 5 or 6 days a month for less than a year, and Maplewood, 0 to 4 years, you get 4 weeks. Now, I don't know when that kicks in for Maplewood, if they have a.
it depends on the library. Like, I feel like in Kirkwood, it's after 2 months you can start taking your vacation, but you get it accrued, so. Plus, it's hard to compare Maplewood because it's PTO, it's not vacation and sick time, it's both, so it is a little different.
But the other ones, for in Richmond Heights, you have to be there at least a year, it looks like.
Yeah. Each employee who begins employment prior to the 15th day of the month will accrue PTO for that month. I don't know.
So that sounds
very
like
complicated.
so that sounds like an accrual system. That
Yeah.
sounds like you get 3 hours, depending, however long
Yeah.
you've been there, it gets chopped up and put into a paycheck. So I guess then my question is, so if we switched it to accrual, then would we set it so that you would accrue 10 days by the time you hit a year, but you could take that time before you hit a year? So like if I started working, I'm getting 2 hours of vacation time every paycheck, which I assume is twice a month, every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so once I hit 6 months, I can start using anything I've built up. So that would be, do the math. That'd be like a couple days essentially.
Yeah.
So I guess my other question is, because I think the 6 month thing also is a probationary period. So your
Yeah.
probation ends at 6 months. So if you said it didn't work out, you're not getting those days, because we're going to tell you that before you hit 6 months. So.
I think we could say, we could just write in something that says, if you have to work for the library for at least a year to earn vacation time upon leaving, like to earn a payout. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like there's language in other policies that say, we'll pay out at like 50%, or you know what I mean? We could say like less than a year. I don't know. I'm trying to think, you know what I mean? And instead of going from, I don't know. I'm not sure why I'm reluctant to do the accrual. Maybe it's just because it would be switching it. I think it's math, honestly.
Let's take an example. Let's say we hire somebody November 1st. All right. Under option A, let's look at option A. They would be on probation for 6 months until April. And then they would not be on probation, and they would have earned 10 days vacation under option A, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Okay, then they come to the end of that calendar year, December 31st, January 1st. How much vacation do they have now?
They could
Um,
carry over 5 days if they didn't use it. And they
Yeah.
would get 10 more days January 1. So they would potentially have 15 days if they don't use the 10 prior to January 1.
So that's 3 weeks.
Okay. So I guess what I'm saying is that 1 year is going to be up in November, and then 3 years is going to be up in 2 Novembers after that. But we are not
We're going to calendar and not anniversary.
calendar after the first
Yeah.
month probation. Angela, you got a comment?
I'm like with Janet. Could they take that in January, those 15 days and leave?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I have a problem with that.
But that does happen. Yeah.
It does.
The policy, so not just putting that into the year. I mean, because it could happen anytime.
Yeah.
It's just saying you're only getting like a year's, you're not getting your money's worth for a year.
I mean, if this is a sticking point for lots of people, we'll change it back to a year. If this is something that, I think that our thought process was, if we do it at 6 months, we're going to keep a good employee who would like to take a break from working.
So it's the 6 to 12 period you're worried about the employee not feeling appreciated as much. I'm just trying to put it in the right words. But
I mean, I don't know. I just
it's
think
hard.
that 6 months is a lot to work without being allowed to take a day off. That's all.
Yeah, I agree. But
I-
Kelsey
I
has
like-
something.
I like the 6 months,
Agree.
but I'm confused about employees can take vacation after 6 months, but are they getting paid if they don't take their vacation, if they leave after a year?
Mhm.
Are you talking about
Yeah.
paying them? Why don't you just say you can't receive a payout for unused vacation until you've worked at the library for 2 years or a certain length of time?
That's
If
what I
that's what
was
we're
saying,
worried-
yeah.
If that's what we're worried about, be generous and because in this day and age, people need to have, things are complicated. You need to have time to get away or do what you need to do to take care of your family. Just in order to get that big bonus of a payout, you have to work there for an appreciable amount of time. So that's my thought.
Kelsey, you had something to say?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Kathy. I think a year is too long to work without a break. And honestly, I mean, I think if we are concerned about payouts, we just write something in, that says, like Kathy just suggested. But honestly, does it matter? Like, if they earn the time, does it matter if we pay, if they decide to quit and we have to pay them for it? Like, if they've earned it, they've earned it. I don't know why it makes a huge deal or a huge difference. But I think a good middle ground solution is to just write something in that says, you can't take a payout until you've worked X number of years or whatever.
I think we've all seen that there are some employees who will figure out how to work the system to their financial advantage, but at the same time, I think we are looking to respect our employees, respect their needs, respect their mental health, respect that we want to keep them and want to make them feel appreciated. Go ahead, Angela, you were going to say.
Yeah, I agree, Kathy and Kelsey, but I'm just concerned with the retraining of another staff member. That was my concern.
Yeah,
go
that's
through
why you
that.
like to keep.
Yeah, I mean, like, if a staff member is going to leave, they're going to leave. Like,
They're gonna
even if
leave.
you don't
True.
give them vacation or do give them vacation, if they don't like it and they are the kind of people who want to leave, they're going to leave. So I agree. Like, that is extra. Like, that's manpower, that's cost. But I think our ability to give them vacation or not isn't going to affect if they want to leave, they're going to leave.
Right.
So. Jeanette, are you still struggling with the 6 months?
I'm struggling because I understand about the employees, but I also understand that we're stewards of the public money. And fixing it so it can be gamed. And I'm not saying that everybody out there is going to do it. But if you get your vacation days before you've worked, if in January 1st you get 10 days or what, pick whatever number of days it is, you haven't worked the year to
Right.
get that thing, which makes me nervous. I don't know why.
Well, that's how we've been doing it.
It still makes me nervous.
I'm like,
Whether we've been doing it or not, it makes me nervous.
So your solution, so you're on the side of it should be an accrual system where you get so much every paycheck. Is that your?
That would be what I would do. But I'm the minority, and it doesn't really matter if we put you can't cash in your vacation. If you get the vacation days and you go, oh, they're not going to pay me for it, I'll just take 10 days of vacation and then quit. So
yeah,
I'm not trying to write this for the exceptions. I'm just the steward of public money weighs heavily on me. That's all. I'm more of a cruel kind of person, you know.
Jeanette, I'm just going to throw out an idea. What if we made after 6 months you earn 5 days, and after a year you're at 10 days?
That might be okay.
Because I do think if you've worked 6 months, I think some vacation time would be.
Yes. I'm not totally against it. It's just, I've never been paid for a job where I got my vacation days before I worked the job.
Well, you'd still have to work 6 months before you got your vacation days.
I know.
Okay.
It's still 10 days for working 6 months to me is a lot.
Okay.
But that's just me. I'm okay. Angela had her hand up.
With that additional
Nope.
category of the 6 month and 1 year, would that meet some objections? Can we try that? Or?
Fine.
so after 6 months, you get 5 days. After a year, you get 10.
Yes.
That's good.
Okay. I think that's fair.
And I don't want us to feel pressure that we're going to agree on everything tonight. I think your committee will probably have to go back to the bar again and meet over this stuff. But
Yeah.
Right.
But I do think there's some good thought. What other, so that's option A. Option B is the non-exempt versus exempt. And it would appear to, there again, you're trying basically to give a little bit more of a benefit to the exempt employees. Am I right?
Yes, because right now, I mean, I hire, like, I guess my example would be I hire like a children's librarian and I give her like 10 days and she has to wait until 5 years to get more than that. And she's doing a professional job that's, very, very labor intensive. And I don't know, it just feels not good. It feels pretty bad yeah.
And I think the other thing that comes to my mind with the exempt is that exempt don't get paid for overtime. So as an exempt employee, you work till the job is done. So like it can be more, and part of this too is stolen from my own work, my own nonprofit that I work for, where it is two different scales. It is different for exempt and non-exempt, just because of, most of our exempt employees have a master's degree or a PhD. So it's kind of giving the benefit for that extra work that person has put in to do the job. So I don't know if we want to change the timing on these, if we, so would it be, after a year of 6 months, it would be however many days, and a year it would be the more days. So if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do our employees understand the exempt, non-exempt?
I'm still confused about it.
Yeah, so exempt, you're exempt from overtime. You're not in a managerial I mean, you're in a managerial position, basically a professional position,
Right.
non-exempt, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we do still have to put the definitions in our glossary.
Yeah, I was
That's
gonna
another
say,
part of our,
Yeah, that's a,
that should be in because then everybody can
Yeah.
see it in front of them.
yeah.
It will
And
be.
exempt, and if, correct me if I'm wrong, but exempt are salaried as opposed to hourly as well.
yeah, exactly.
So it's
Yeah.
I'm
that's the
sorry.
other difference. It is,
Well,
the
at least in our
language is
library.
confusing.
Yeah, at least in our library, it is that, that way, but there are some places that have a base salary that they're non-exempt. They have a base salary, but they get some other compensation for extra time. And that's a real muddying the water, what we're talking about tonight. So I guess we don't have a base salary with extra compensation for extra work or whatever. But so it's not always in stone that if you're non-exempt, you're not going to get anything else extra other than your salary. So I don't know.
I think that I believe that was a conversation with the lawyer, the exempt versus non-exempt, and making sure that exempt people aren't getting the overtime pay and non-exempt people are. So I know that I believe that was a conversation at some point that had to get cleared up as to who classified as what, right? Or am I?
Well, with the, when we paid the consultant to do the,
Oh yeah, that's great.
yeah, then she was the one, because we had to switch to
Oh, right.
employees
So
because they weren't in the right category. They were full-time, so we assumed that they were salaried, but they weren't supposed to be because they weren't doing the duties of a person that would be considered non-exempt. You know what I mean?
But our position, but so now everybody
Right,
at
so-
the library is clearly in one category or
Mhm.
the other.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So
are we recommending going with option B with those changes or? What,
Yeah, I like option B.
I do too.
we could just change those lines as we discussed earlier.
You mean we'll do the 6 months and the 1 year?
6 months.
yeah, after 6 months, you'd get the 5 days or 10 days as an exempt employee, and then after a year, you'd get the 10 and the 20.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's one of the-
As a detail person,
Yes.
you're going to have to clarify, is it 6 months before January or is it a year?
Employment.
Yeah,
That's the part
6
that I
months.
have trouble reconciling between trying to do vacation based on the calendar as opposed to your hire date. I don't know what you do with that time in between because not everybody's hired on January 1st or July 1st.
yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
The
Someone's
easiest,
gonna get
the most, go ahead, Gary.
Said someone's gonna get cheated with that kind of system.
And that's why we wrote in you get to carry over half. So you're right. If you get hired on November 1st and you can and you haven't worked 6 months, and then, yeah, I'll have to look at it again. But the idea is that people wouldn't, if they start in a weird time of the year, they're going to hit their 6 month mark. I don't know. I'm gonna have to do them. I had it all written out at one point and I don't have it written out anymore to make it clear to myself.
This is going to take more than 1 night.
If
Yeah.
you get hired in November, all right, and then in April, your 6 months is up, you've earned 5 days vacation. In November, your year is up, you've earned 10 days vacation. January,
You
according,
wouldn't,
and we would start a new year. They would have 10 days of accrued vacation unless they took it, and that they could carry over 5, but they would get another 10 days.
so I think what we might need to say is instead of that, okay, so if I've worked 6 months you know, in November, I get my April, I get my 5 days.
Yeah.
And then the next one should say when you've worked more than a year. So something so that year one doesn't kick in till January 1.
Okay,
That would make sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So your year anniversary means nothing. Your 6-month anniversary the first time means something, but you got to wait till you've worked there at least a year on January 1. So we'd have to say it that way.
now the
That
problem,
makes sense.
So it would be more than a year as of January 1. So that person who started in November, they're going to get slightly cheated because they're going to hit their year in November, but not get their pay till their vacation till January. But after that, it's going to be fine because then it'll be on the cycle. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Jenna, the problem you have is that employees hired at different times during the year will have a little bit different circumstances, especially that first year. And if you went back to hire dates, then it's
Mhm.
more bookkeeping, more paperwork. You have to keep.
Yeah, so now it's like a balancing now, because you're right. And now I'm thinking, I mean, does it matter? Should I just keep the hire instead of the calendar? You know what I mean? Would it change anything then? I mean,
If you keep the hire date, you have, I think, less of a potential problem of employee morale, to be honest. Because people say, well, I was hired then, and a year from now,
yeah,
a day, and a year from now, you weren't hired then, so why should you be getting it? And that's, I mean, believe me, I've been enough with companies, I know it's a very big problem if
yeah.
they think they're getting screwed just because they were hired at a different day. But, you know, I'll let other people speak to that question of calendar versus hire date.
I mean, nothing else would have to change really, right, Lori? I mean, it would just be okay, we're gonna go back to the hire date instead of the calendar year.
Yeah, I don't think it would affect us. Like you said, the only difference is you'd have to make sure that's set up somewhere in that, if there's a way
Yeah.
to set it up in the payroll system so that it automatically adds those vacation dates as of their
A different
anniversary.
Yeah.
follow-up file, whatever you want to call it, that says, I got 3 employees I hired in March,
Right.
and that's coming up, you know. But
Well, I'm willing to give up that, I think I thought it would be easier on me, but if it's gonna be better for the employees, I'd rather do it the calendar, the hire date. We'll just keep it the way it is.
well, sleep on it before you come back to it. But I know my experience has been calendar dates, you really get some problems. And
Okay.
that's
Because it's really not the November person that's going to have a problem. It's the person who gets hired in February. And they get their 6 months in, what would that be? July. And then they have to wait when they get to that first January. They haven't worked there a year. They have to go another whole year before they can get their pension.
Oh,
no,
that's
you
bad.
just have to go to February.
Well,
Oh,
if we go to the calendar, if we go to the hire, but
February.
as a calendar date, that's when it gets hard.
ugh.
Make it
Every
go away.
I'm always for let's take I don't want to make it something overly complicated. I mean, yeah.
You hire someone, and then every year after that, in that month, their vacation status changes.
Yeah.
Unless, here's an idea. What if you are accrued to that first or second, I guess, January that you're there? So you get hired in February, you can take your 5 days after 6 months, and then when you hit your 1-year anniversary, you get whatever the comparable is to get you to that next year. It may not be the full 10 days, maybe it's 8 days, but then come that next January, you're right with everybody else and get 10 full days. Because you're really only talking about that first year that somebody's hired.
So just accrual for the first year. Is that what you're saying? Am I understanding that?
Yeah, first, until they hit that second
Partial year, yeah.
January 1st.
January, yeah.
But I don't know if that's proper. I don't know what the rules are behind that, but
Why don't you go back and look at that, with the question?
Why
of-
are we stuck on the calendar cutoff? I'm
Because it was
missing
easier for
something
me.
here. I don't remember.
I think you'll find it to be easier the other way, higher dates to be achieved. If you have a good tickler file and all that, I think it'll be easier for you and for the employees. They'll be saying, hey, it's coming up March. I was hired in March. That means I've got another 10 days of vacation about to start.
I see that now. Yeah, no, I'm
Anyway,
there.
why don't you two think about that and go over some things and come back with some ideas after our input, if that's okay.
Yes.
What other, did you want to talk about sick leave now, or it's 17 minutes till 8? I don't want to keep anybody from
Sure.
having to be anywhere.
I have another question.
Oh, Jeanette.
I'm sorry. It's
No,
detailed.
no.
One, I think sick leave or something does vacation time count towards calculating overtime in a week?
No.
Okay, that needs to be stated
Okay.
for vacation day. It's stated in sick leave, but it's not stated in,
It does. It does.
Oh, wait.
It does not count towards sick leave. Is that what you're saying?
no,
Oh.
if you're sick, you can't get overtime. Right? That's in sick leave, but it doesn't say anything about vacation time, but I don't know if it makes a difference. I have no clue.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to add the line in vacation as well.
Okay.
Yeah. 'cause-
Yeah.
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 One of the things I brought up to Jenna and Lori was trying to define mental health day. I think we all know when we need it.
G'day.
Defining it, and there are a couple definitions online you might look at, just because it's a nebulous enough term. I mean, it doesn't mean, and do you need a diagnosis? Do you need a note from a
No, I feel like I'm not going to ask anybody if they're sick. I'm not going to say, what are you sick with?
Is
I
it
mean-
emotional or mental or physical?
Yeah.
No.
If they're gone for 3 days, this policy requires a note.
Sure. So in that case, they have to have a note. But I don't know. I feel like maybe mental health or personal day. I mean, I feel like those are
Yeah, I think
pretty
defining
common.
it makes sense. Like
Okay.
to put a definition, or to put just a general definition, nothing too specific that makes it sound like you have to have a complete mental breakdown to take one.
I would not require a physician's release regarding mental health day. That's just
Oh, but for 3 days in a row.
right. But it says 3 consecutive sick days, which would include mental health days.
Right.
So I would not require it for mental health days. That's just my thought.
Wait, I'm sorry. You mean you wouldn't require it, but it would be like the same as a sick day?
Under 6.3, down at the third paragraph from the bottom, it says any employee who has taken 3 consecutive sick days shall obtain a physician's release. Well,
Mhm.
a sick day by definition includes a mental health day. So
Right.
I would
Right.
exclude that. I would exclude that. That's just my thought. If anybody else has any thoughts on it.
But how often are you going to take if you really need a mental health day 3 days in a row, there's probably something more serious going on and you're going to have a doctor's note.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just wanted it to be like included, I guess, in the sick, because it is, sometimes you do just need to,
You just call it a
Need a
personal
to put in
day.
your head.
yeah. So instead of, like we said, not saying, but in the same under sick leave, just instead of mental health, say a personal day? Is that what you,
That's what I said.
okay. Jeanette's no. Right
Yeah.
now, we have one personal day like built in to the calendar year, which to me is kind of, well, when we were under the city anyway.
that's
Which was-
another section, right? I assume. personal days and funeral leave, all that's another section.
No, because that was under the city thing. We don't have one built into our manual.
I didn't see one in the city, but I might have missed it. I'll have to go back and look.
That might be something to look at.
Yeah, so family illness, if some kids got chicken pox or something, are you going to expect they have a doctor's note that their kid has chicken pox?
If they have to be out for 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my husband works for the federal government, and if he's out for more than 3 days, he has to have a note from a doctor saying that he needed to be out for those 3 days.
Mhm.
If it's more than 3 days. So if it's 4 days, he has to have a note saying that he needed to not go to work. So
Well, yeah, in family illness, then where it says this includes, I would put this includes, but it's not limited to blah, blah, blah. That it just it's detail, I'm sorry.
Or say like, for example.
Well, for example, or something, yeah.
Mhm.
But if, your kid's sick and
I know, yeah,
somebody's got COVID, I mean, it's just whatever.
right. I think before it just wasn't spelled out at all, so,
Yeah.
we just wanted to like, give some, yeah.
yeah, and we can look at this again in light of everything we've talked about tonight and make some more revisions to bring back.
Yeah.
Once you start into these kind of questions, so many things pop up that you just didn't think about.
Always.
I remember negotiating in the Clayton district for funeral leave for significant others when it was not,
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
or it was always spouse or something. So
Oh, yeah.
I think
have a
you have to say
question.
3 or more consecutive sick days. Because then that leaves it, some people could try to game that, well, I only had 3 days, or 2 days that I had to leave a half a day or whatever. I just think it should say 3 or more sick days. It's probably not a big deal, but
That brings up an interesting point. Are sick days whole days, or can they be
Half days. Yeah.
half days or hours?
Hours.
Like if you're gonna, do
Oh,
you
I don't-
take a half day sick day because you have a doctor's appointment, or do you have to take a whole day sick day because you have a doctor's appointment?
Oh, yeah, we don't specify, but I would let anybody take like an hour for sick. I mean,
we could put something in that
yeah.
would be at least half a day or something.
yeah.
Well, I could say like, I could be like an hour to go to the doctor, because that happens.
But
Yeah.
does the doctor ever take less than just an hour?
Yeah, really. Get out of here.
To get there, to go through the process, to get back to work. I mean, I've tried, it doesn't work, even with
I
the
guess
simplest
like
appointment.
I've worked at
So-
like where my appointment, like maybe my appointment's at like 4:30, so I leave
Oh,
at
so you are
4. You know what I
leaving
mean? Like that
early
kind
to
of
go, yeah.
thing where,
But I
yeah.
do think because but if we keep track of things in hours, then we should keep track of things in hours, not just days. I would say nothing less than an hour,
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
We are giving you, Jenna, power and discretion that people want to use. these things. If somebody got called for a vaccination for COVID and they have to go over for an hour to do that, then,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you got some discretion, I think.
I have a question about, you mentioned defining mental health.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that, do you really want to define mental health
Well,
days? Isn't that kind of a casual category that's just understood that people take a mental health day? But if you get into a definition, could it be that you could have some employees taking advantage of that and other employees being more literal about it and create hard feelings of, I mean, isn't that a slippery slope to define something like that?
It can be, but the kind of definitions I found online was like a day that an employee takes off from work in order to relieve stress or renew vitality. Some people have that. Another
that's good.
is where an employee does not come to work and takes a sick day for reasons other than physical illness. You can find some other ones online that companies have used. I think it gives, what it does is it's gonna give Jenna a little bit more guideline. If somebody comes up and says, look, I really need to get out of here for a day because of this and this, and Jenna can make a judgment on that.
I'm just saying it might be easier just to leave it broader because,
Well, that's pretty broad.
Yeah.
yeah,
I think. So.
Okay.
thank you.
I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you're an adult. If this is like something you've earned, I'm not going to ask you to, it's your time. I'm not going to ask you to prove to me that you need it. You're an adult, you should be able to do, determine for yourself. And you're like, and it's coming out of it's your time. So, you're not going to use it unless you want to use all your time on mental health days, then,
mhm,
that's your prerogative, right?
yeah.
Yeah, and that, again, as the boss, you got some discretion to be able to judge people. And that's. Any other thoughts on these recommendations? I know they're gonna come back with some more thoughts.
We haven't really talked about the part-time PTO. I'm curious if that's something that you guys like, or because that's new for us.
I guess I would like a better understanding of what's considered a day if they're a part-time worker. It almost feels like hours are better in that instance because, yeah, are you working 3 days a week and you're working 8-hour days and you want a whole 8-hour day off? Or are you working, 5 half days and therefore you want a half day off every day, because that's equivalent?
Well, we do have the hours spelled out. Is that not what you mean, though? So like if you
So
work
it's
20
so
to
it's
29 hours a week, like every week, then you could
So
take,
a 5 days is then 5 full,
it would be
full-time
37.5
equivalent.
hours.
Okay.
And if we do switch the other one to be the 6 months is 5 days, then this would be 6 months is 2.5 days. So all of these are half of what full timers get. Just wanted to make a note that would change as well.
Okay.
And this is PTO, so it's sick time and it's all wrapped into one. So they don't have the sick time policy. It's sick and vacation.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Lori, on the part B, option B, the first one out, people who work between 20 and 29 hours every week after a 6-month probation period. So they can have varied hours, but they're not going to get anything during that probationary period. Is that correct?
Right. Yes.
Okay, just so I get that straight. Yikes.
Okay.
You all have done a lot of work on this.
Yeah, we really.
Here we are ripping.
And I hope you will take all of our comments in the spirit in which they are intended. And we'll hope if you can come back next month with more recommendations or a version for us to look at, or if it takes 2 months, we understand. There's a lot to look at. So thank you very much. Treasurer's report.
Oh.
Sorry. I'm like, oh my God, we're not done?
We're not
Mental
done.
health day, mental health day.
Well, I actually have some very exciting news. So as I said in my email yesterday, there was quite a bit of a misunderstanding in how to record our bills. It never occurred to me that you don't record the bill when you are setting it up to get paid. And the folks over at Perk set it up so that it wouldn't get recorded until the check was processed by the bank, which meant most of our February activity wasn't showing up until March 1st. So,
Okay.
hence the reason that there's only payroll in our February expenses. But because I got in touch with Ellie today, she was actually already in the system reconciling the bank account and went back and changed the those invoices to reflect the day that we submit them to her to be paid. So they're all now February activity, and I will send everybody fresh financials that actually have a little bit more meaning. And I am just quickly looking at February this year compared to February of 2020. And for some crazy reason, we bought a lot of books in the beginning of the year. We had $63,000 in expenses in 2020 and only $39,000 in 2021. But that's, salary is pretty much the same. We don't have our employee benefits booked yet because we didn't get that from the city. So yeah, the big difference is the fact that there were more books purchased. Like we only purchased $58 worth of children's books in February of 21 versus $8,000 worth last year. So some of those things I think we're going to come across on a month-to-month basis. Year to date, just looking at January and February 2021, we have spent $74,000 versus $101,000 last year. So again, I think it's more the purchase of the books and some of the things that we are missing from the city bills because they haven't set them up yet. Our utilities, our insurance is always paid in February as well. So some of those things, we still don't really have complete numbers at this point, but we're clearly doing better than we did last year. So that's always a good thing. And I had just enough time to print off the P&L. I did not have a chance to print off the comparison to budget, but I imagine we're under budget on everything there as well.
Very good. Any questions? As we get closer and closer to that Shangri-La of operating reports, right?
They're all on one page.
Thank you. Any new business? Thank you. Any public comments? No executive session tonight. Our next meeting is scheduled for April 6th. We will probably still be on Zoom, but we're getting closer, folks. We're getting closer. Is there a motion?
Wait. It says joining resolution, Missouri loggers on the agenda.
No,
That was last month.
that's last month's agenda.
Well, piddly poo. Okay. All
Oh,
right.
maybe I should just mention I didn't put that in, but we're set up with our own as of March 1st, yesterday.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, any other business? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Cindy, to adjourn.
It was moved by half the board, seconded by the other half. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I thank you all very
Aye.
much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Thank you, everyone.